What up, Pirate Fam? It's Mr. Boughton, and I had an excellent thought. It was mine and mine alone, and no one helped me come up with it. I'm kidding. Something for you to do while you're at home, stuck inside, assuming that's what you're doing. You're observing all of the, social distancing protocols and all that stuff, and you're stuck trying to figure out what you're going to do with yourself. You've played as much Fortnite as you can possibly handle, and that girl you're into won't text you back. What do you do with yourself? Well, there's a couple things to just, help sort out with the anxiety, but there's another level to this, and it's keep a journal, right? Or a diary, or a ledger, or call it whatever you want. And it serves a couple of purposes. The first is writing down your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and your concerns and making lists and planning ahead for the future helps you sort out your mind and come to terms with what's happening inside of your head for better and or I guess worse, but it's usually for the better. And think about it this way. It's just like what we talk about with writing essays, right? Writing helps you think. It makes you think better. And when you just put your general thoughts down, you're physically acting them out with your hand onto a piece of paper, and you're making them real in a sense. And when you have to physically put them on a piece of paper, you're physically wrestling with them. And so if for all the good and negative things that are happening inside of your head, laying them down on a piece of paper really does go a long way to helping you make sense of them and turn them into forces for good. And also making lists help for those of you that suffer from ADD. But it also serves another purpose. We talk all the time in history class about sources, primary and secondary. Consider the time we're in now. Everyone's throwing around the word unprecedented, and it's kind of like, well, what do they mean unprecedented? Well, what they mean is that nothing like this has happened before. When someone sets a precedent, that means they are setting a trend for the future. And the suggestion is that something like this has never happened before, and well, that's not entirely true. We've had major economic crashes in this country before, and minor ones, and we've also had plagues across this country before and across the world. And so there are clues to search through in human history to understand what the complexity of what's happening now. But consider this. It is a big deal. What's happening right now is a huge situation. This coronavirus and everything that's coming from it will be studied by historians for decades and decades. And what does that make us? Primary resources. By keeping a journal and by writing down what you see and what you think and what you experience, you are creating a historical document for the future. And you, sitting in your home, concerned about what's going on right now, are a perfect resource for future historians. So document everything that's going on. Create that record. Create that record not just for your own sake to sort through your own minds, but for your grandchildren when they ask, where were you when that happened? What was it like? I mentioned in one of my previous videos sitting down and talking with my grandparents about living through the Great Depression. Well, our grandchildren will ask us about this one, almost certainly. And so put that record down. And let me show you a great way to get through that. Alright guys, so here's the way to go about this. First thing you'll need is something to write with. I'm a writing nerd. I've got a fountain pen, so that's what I choose to write with. However, you could be a regular person and use a ballpoint pen, or an even more regular person and use a pencil, or be a super hardcore person and char a stick and etch it into a cave wall. It really doesn't matter. As long as you're getting stuff down, that's what we're after. Again, super writing nerd. Mr. Boughton's got his fancy, handy-dandy, magnificent notebook, but also you could have paper, or like I mentioned before, a cave wall, player's choice. Next thing you're going to want to make sure you do is actually put down the date. Because remember, we're talking about history, we're talking about context. We're talking about surrounding the situation for understanding. And it does a couple of things. One, for you as a journaler and a writer, it helps you track yourself over time to understand what you went through and reflect upon it. And also, for your grandchildren and whoever looks at it later, it helps them understand the progression of time as things went on. So I got today. It is March 16th, so I'm going to put 3, 16, 20, 20. Excellent. I'm an expert. Don't test me, son. Then there's a couple of other... Oh, I'm leaking. Maybe I should use a pencil. Anyway, forge on. Carry on. I like to break it up into a couple different sections. The first one I like to break down into is just the facts, right? The list of things that took place. Here's what happened. Here's when it happened. Done. Then the next one I like to go with thoughts. Here's how I thought about it. Here's some problem solving I did. Here's my workarounds and all that other stuff. And then feelings. Boom. Got my 3 sections. Boom. Facts, thoughts, feelings. And that kind of helps you progress through the stages of yourself and kind of outline for whoever reads down the line exactly what was going on. So let me show you just what I mean. I slept in heavily today, waking up at 7 a.m. I did need to check in at work. That meant reading an email or two. It's strange not going to my classroom. Then, having looked back into my backyard through the window in the kitchen, I noticed I had an oddly shaped yard. So I grabbed my shovel and I began digging a hole. After digging a hole and thinking that it was quite nice, I made a plan for digging another hole. I then went to the park and saw a coughing child and ran the other way as fast as I could. I do find it odd that coughing children would scare me so, since I work with children and that's almost all they seem to be for, is coughing and spreading germs around. That's why they canceled school. Then, having marveled at the fact that I was scared of a coughing child and a teacher afraid of viruses, I pondered on the hole in my backyard and wondered to myself, should I dig another hole? I settled to do so again tomorrow. There was a remarkable feeling of accomplishment that I gained from digging a hole, and then I pondered writing a song for the future. And I wondered, did Travis write another song? Did he put me in it? Maybe he'll tell a story about my guitar this time. That would be nice. Today was a good day. Just the same, even though I was nervous about everything else. And there you have it, guys. Simple as that. Do that every day. Do that every couple of days. Do it once a week, whatever works out for you guys. And just remember, it's going to help. It'll help in so many ways, probably more than you ever really thought you would imagine. So do your best. Remember, we love you. Don't get eaten by a bear. And whatever you do for this land, you do for everybody.